The Greg Hackney Show continues at the Walmart FLW Tour event on Pickwick Lake. After weighing 31 pounds 6 ounces on day 2, Hackney dropped 22 pounds 4 ounces into the scales today to take nearly an 8-pound lead into the final day. Needless to say, the hack attack is in full effect. Greg, not quite the mile a minute school today, not quite the 31 pounds, but you can't expect that every day you go fishing. Those are just gifts you get, and today it looked like it was more back to just grinding.
It was. It's back typical for the way I fish most of the time. It was a very slow grind today, which in a way, I probably, it's funny, I had probably fished the first 2 days, maybe 4 hours of the first whole 2 days, but today it got back to normal, and it took all day long, and I mean, I was still getting it at quitting time, you know, trying to get another one.
What do you think happened to that school in there? I mean, obviously there's still some fish there, but it looked like the last couple days they were definitely bunched up tighter or feeding or something had them going, and they were just more scattered today.
They had really been on maybe a 15-yard stretch of that break. I mean, it was just a certain spot, and I had been just kind of milking them, going up there, getting what I need and easing back off and coming back and letting them reload. And today they just never got on any of those places. They were everywhere. I mean, they were in a 200-yard stretch, you know, and I had to grind through it, and they were all singles. Like, I never caught one and was able to go back and, you know, and catch another one, and I never saw any bait activity. I saw some skipjack, but I have yet to really, those skipjack are solitary. They're not swimming around in schools. You know, they're a herring, but they're singles, and you'll occasionally see those break. They're eating whatever kind of fries out there. Shad fry, carp fry, whatever it is, I'm not sure, but you'll see them break. But the shad, you know, the big gizzard shad just never got there today. Only difference was a ton of current. Okay. You know, which it's Tennessee River. I'm like, this has got to just, I thought what would happen, you know, because you always think positive, I would have thought that when that current went to running like that, it was fixing to take every fish from that whole area and compact them right there. Okay. That's what I thought. You know, I mean... and
you think it almost did the opposite?
It almost like it just scattered them. And then I got out there actually before I left it the last hour and started making big loops, looking for a little subtlety, something, you know, because I hadn't done that. I hadn't had to. So I really don't know the area that well because I'd been keying on those first couple spots. So I just rotated and kept, you know, advancing. There's nothing out there. It is a very unique place because it is so subtle. I mean, it's just... You know, the break is actually maybe 1.5 feet, but the deal is on that break is a huge mussel bed. Okay. I mean, it is the right kind, and they're living. It's a living bottom. Okay. And you can kind of tell because I'll start catching snails, and when I start catching those snails, then I know I'm running that live mussel then. Okay. And that seems to be the deal. Like with that bottom is like just when you find that mussel, you know, that was the deal. But did I catch them all? You know, like I told you earlier today, I mean, now that becomes a spot in my rotation. It does not become the spot, you know. So, you know, who knows? I'm going to have to watch the weather and see what it does. I'm not totally giving up on it, but I got a bunch of other places I hadn't been to. I had a couple of them I was really excited about, but I hadn't had a chance to go. And so, you know, tomorrow I just go fishing.
Brent, looked like it was no slowing up for you today. I saw you fire up a couple schools out there, and it's one after another after another. 2 schools of thought on this I've been asking some guys about. Some of these guys just like to visit school with big stuff, big plugs, big jigs, and never finesse them down. It looks like you like to spend more time finessing these fish down to the point of finding something that they'll bite.
You know, on a few places I would sit there for quite a while because, you know, you can get them to trigger. And on some of the places they'll fire and then they'll stop and then you'll be there for a little bit longer and then you'll catch maybe 2 more and then they'll stop for a while. And but it's not easy to get them to go. You know, you can't just pull up to a spot and fire, you know, a plug out there and catch them. You know, typically you can on this place, you know, or at least Tennessee River, but things are a little different today. You have to kind of finagle them to get them to go on.
A lot more current today.
Yeah, today it was ripping. I mean, I don't know what they're pulling, but I thought it pulled hard yesterday, and today it had to have been double what it was yesterday. I mean, it was no. I mean, you don't touch the trolling motor, and you'd be 50 yards away. You know, so it was really going today, and it was surprisingly harder to catch them than what you would have expected. You know, you cry, there's no current, and then you cry because there's too much current. I mean, it definitely, you know, it definitely got them to bite, but I think it positioned them in different places. I ran to a few places and they were definitely not where they were. You know, I think it's that much current kind of pushes them in different places.
Moves them to different places.
I think so. They just move where, you know, when the current's this speed, they're there. When the current's that speed, they're there. You know, when the current's that other speed, they're way over there. It seemed that way. I mean, it did, and a lot of times I caught them on the exact same spot. I mean, I could get to my waypoint and, you know, I'd have a cast, and if you make that cast, you'll catch one. You know, and so it did seem like they stayed in some places, and in other places they definitely moved.
Does it seem like they get tighter, like that exact cast becomes more key in current like that?
Not really. I mean, it was just kind of strange, and I don't know if there was just more fish down there than what I thought. And the ones that, you know, you have your exact cast where they bite, you know, with slower current, and now with more current, I think some of those ones are kind of roaming out off on the sides are starting to bite a little bit more now.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of places where, I mean, you could be in a, you know, 50, 70-yard stretch and throw anywhere and be around a fish. They're not, you know, I still haven't seen them where they're so thick that you can't get a bait through. I mean, in practice, there's a few places like that where you could just, and even then it wasn't easy to catch them, which was strange. But I mean, you would think that if you threw a crankbait out there and burned it as fast as you could, that you'd snag 4 or 5 of them. There's so many down there, but you know, it wasn't like that. It wasn't easy.
Sounds good. Anything in your pocket for tomorrow? I mean, have you already visited all the places that you're going to visit tomorrow? Have you got something tucked away that you plan on maybe dealing out tomorrow?
There's 2 places that I haven't even fished yet, not even once. And there's one place.
I'm sorry, why have you not fished them?
Just because I know no one found them, and
okay.
You know, and it was just one of those things where I kind of keep saving. But I don't know how good they are. You know, I could run a long ways and pull up and not even catch one. But I had another area that I caught 2 4-pounders on the first day, and I didn't even touch it yesterday. And I pulled up there today, and my co-angler catches a 6 or a 7, and I start catching about every cast. I cull once or twice there. Unfortunately, a couple spectator boats saw me there, and one started fishing after I left. But I'll probably end up starting there. I mean, there's so many fish there that, and they've been untapped. I mean, I drove by it multiple times and no one has ever been there, and I kind of kept leaving it, and I mean, it's scary how many were. I mean, they're not a lot of big ones, but I mean, I fished it for a total of probably 45 minutes to an hour, and you know, combined over 2 different days, and 2 4s and several 3s and like a 7 have come off of it. So, you know, there's a lot of fish. I mean, I could pull back and only catch 2.5s, but I'm kind of excited to go and chuck my bait out there tomorrow.
Excited to go fishing tomorrow?
I am. It's been a long time since I've been excited to go out. I mean, you catch a lot here, and again, things could change, but I mean, my hands are sore from catching so many, and it's pretty rare to have one like that. I mean, this whole season has not been that way. You know, it's just been a grind, and finally now it feels like I'm going to go out and catch some fish.
Go get even with them tomorrow.
Yeah, I hope so.
Michael, last couple of days you've been able to get off to a fast, blistering start. Today a little slower. Did you get concerned at any point?
Oh yeah, I was definitely concerned. I mean, basically, as soon as I pull up, within 2 or 3 casts, I've caught a fish, and I went a while without catching one this morning, not even getting bites. So I really expected when we took off and I saw the current flowing really good that they'd be biting when I got there, but it just didn't work out that way.
So tell me your opinion, your thoughts on that. A lot of people had that thought. They saw the current, they thought everybody's going to rip them today, and a lot of guys really kind of struggled, even though they said they could see fish down there grouped up. What did the current do? I mean,
the current really, when it's ripping that hard, makes them hard to fish. I mean, if you're fishing parallel with them, you might be able to drag it through them, but if you're trying to sit deep and throw up on a shallower ledge like the edge of the river channel, it's just your bait's moving so quick it's hard to pinpoint that you're coming right through the school of fish. So I mean, I think that's got something to do with it, but I'm thinking the pressure just over this much time is starting to get a little in their heads.
The fish are getting a little educated.
Yeah, they're getting a little educated, but I mean, it seems like even the places I had kind of to myself, I saw a few local boats on today. So I don't know if some of everybody's places are getting fish as soon as they pull off of them, and they're really never getting the rest. I think that might be a lot to do with it.
Tell us a little bit about baits. We're late in the tournament now. Any key baits for you?
Yeah, I've caught most of my fish on the lunker hunt swim bento. It's kind of like a finesse type swim bait. It doesn't have really much of an action. It's just kind of, the tail lays back there and flops a little bit, and I think it helps on highly pressured fish, especially like these.
Sounds good. You finally got one school fired up today. Why was that one different?
I have no clue why that one was different. It was a little bit shallower. I don't know if that really had something to do with it. It was a little bit back up the river from where I've been fishing most of the time. But I'm planning on starting there again tomorrow. And I actually caught a cold maybe one or two more times after I got that one fired up, and those were up that way as well. So thinking if I might spend a little bit more of my time there in the morning, I might be in better shape.
Jason took off this morning, lots of current flowing. Guys were all fired up. They're thinking, man, they're going to be tearing it up and biting out there. And then first part of the morning, it kind of slow on a lot of guys.
It was slow on me. Like at 12 o'clock, I probably had 12 or 13, maybe 14 pounds. And then I ran a lot today. I probably burnt about 52 gallons of gas today. And I finally at 12 o'clock got a school to go a little bit and caught some good fish off of it. But it was slow. It was a grind. I didn't have a limit till like 11. So
is that just because so many people on your places, or I guess I'm kind of stunned. I thought with all that current, it would just be crazy today.
Well, it got a lot better this afternoon. I actually lost a couple of fish today, or could have weighed a really big bag. But there's two local tournaments out of the lower end today. That hurt a little bit, but Pickwick's a lake that it's not like Kentucky. It doesn't take the pressure nearly as well as a Kentucky lake or something. It's a lot smaller, and the fish they get a little gun shy after a few days of getting beat on. So, if we get to go tomorrow, then I think it's going to get better as every day goes on, because there's less and less people beating on them. But, we'll see what happens.
Key baits for you this week. We're along in the tournament now.
I'm throwing the same exact thing I threw at Kentucky Lake last week, that Yankum shaking shad head and 5-inch castaic jerky J. It and the 7-inch. Catching most of my numbers on the 5, but catching the big ones on the 7.
Are those swim baits? What's the first one you just described?
Yeah, it's a swim bait. It's built by Castaic. It's called a Jerky J. It's just a straight tail swim bait instead of a paddle tail. It's just I think it's a little more modest approach to them, and they see so many swim baits every day with these paddle tails now, and used to be kind of a secret, but everybody's throwing it now. So it's just something just a little different.
Tell me about the head that's on it.
It's basically a Magnum, like, bladed jig head. It's a 1 ounce bladed jig head, and throwing it and throwing a scrounger head on it some too. But it really depends on the current. Sometimes if the current's really running, they seem to bite one of them better than the other. But it's the same bait, just two different heads. Like I said, based on how they're reacting to it.
Spencer, how have you been able to kind of avoid the crowd, find some stuff to yourself? I mean, what's been the trick for you to get this far, into the tournament?
Well, I probably didn't make 100 casts in practice. I did nothing but idle around for 3 solid days. I've got a lot of confidence in my graph. I know exactly what bass look like. When they're in a feeding mode or mood, and I did nothing but kind of look at off-the-wall stuff, not stuff that's obvious. I'd get on a ledge and idle down it for like 5 miles and just weave back and forth. It was boring, but you would find a school of fish about every hour and a half to 2 hours by doing that, and that's what I've done. But and it's worked out. But what was so tough the first 2 days is you would have guys fishing not on them schools, but they would be within 2 casts or so, and you didn't really want to idle. And I have not pulled in on a single school of fish this week and just started fishing. I'll over them first, find them, and then I turn around and fish, because it's just a waste of time to fish, because they're moving 20 to 40 to 50 yards every day. And they stay in like a 100-yard section, but they're moving a little bit. So, I'm idling, and as soon as I see them, I turn around and I start catching them, every cast, and that's what I've been doing. But looking for off-the-wall stuff that I figure that most guys wouldn't be looking for, kind of things.
How many of those schools did you mark?
I've got 43 schools of fish found. But I've only got to fish about 7 of them. That's it.
Because other people found
Yeah,
them.
exactly. Well, that, and the fact that, a lot of locals already know about them and stuff. Today I went to fish some, and there'd be 2 or 3 locals sitting there. I think it was a local tournament going on or something. But, it's no big deal. They're replenishing. Like, I had a school the first day I never got to touch. There was like 7 of our guys fished it, and not one of them had like 13 pounds off of them. And yesterday morning, I was first boat out, pulled over and had 20 pounds in my first 5 casts. This morning, I caught 40 keepers off of it in a row, and they were all 3.5 pounders, and I left it. But there was 2 or 3 locals around there that watched me doing it, and I'm afraid that they might be there in the morning before I can get there. But, you know, either way, hopefully these guys will be nice enough to let you pull in there and fish your fish.
I guess at some point you just have to sacrifice a spot. You know that when you're on it catching them and you're being watched, chances are you might not ever get to go there again.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and I've got a couple of spots that I haven't hit yet and some places that I fished, but I'm throwing bigger baits, and I know I can throw smaller stuff and catch a lot of 3-pounders doing it. But I just haven't, because I know that it might come down to that tomorrow. I have to do it. So, you know, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to getting back out there tomorrow for sure.
Give me an idea of baits for you this week.
You know, I've weighed in. I did not plan on it, but I planned on catching them on a crankbait and a swim bait this week. But I've actually caught, let's see, 12 of the 15 I've weighed in come on a jig, believe it or not. And, I mean, you know, it's just, I didn't fish any in practice, and I just happened to pick it up on a school the first day, and I caught like a 4-pounder on it and a 3.5, and I just went from there, and I've actually figured it out better and better each day, the way they want it. And today it was just awesome. I mean, I caught the snot out of them on it. So